In this film I'm going to show you how to make a mould using sand. This is the simpler version of the two, which I would recommend for the majority of students. You can see I've got my my boxes here, and these are going to be used to make the mould. There's two parts, which is a cope which goes at the top and a drag that goes at the bottom, and we can remind ourselves of which one is which, because if we were to pull it along, the drag is what goes at the bottom. So I've got my drag, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my box and I'm going to turn it upside down like so. I am going to get the lower part of my moulds. So these are the two things that I'm going to create my mould for, and it's the lower parts that I need to mould first of all. So these are going to be placed inside of the box. Now you can see that I am creating the sand mould on this box, and because it's got melamine on it, which is quite a plasticky surface, there's no risk of the sand sticking to this, so I don't need to put talc on the bottom of the mould. What I do need to do is put talc onto the actual patterns. So I get my talcum powder, and away from the sand I'm going to make sure that I get lots of talc on the two halves like so. So I rub the talcum powder in, and what the talc does is it stops the sand from sticking to the MDF. I need to make sure that I rub it in particularly on the edges so that the sand doesn't absorb into the edges. So I place the lower half of the pattern into the mould, and I space them out equally like so. What I now need to start doing is packing this out with sand. So I'm going to get a small amount of sand. Now ideally, using a sieve, you would place a small amount over both of the shapes. And what I now need to do is just use my fingers to firm the sand around the pieces of wood. Like that. And now I can just start to fill up the rest of the space. So I'd normally fill it about half full. And what I now need to do is get a piece of wood, and I need to start packing the sand down so that it doesn't fall out of the mould when we turn it upside down. So if you give me a moment, I'll get a piece of wood and I'll start packing it out. Okay, so these are my pieces of wood. What you would normally do is go around the outside edge first of all, and on these tables it's best to use a pushing motion rather than a hitting motion, or you get lots of vibration on these desks. So I'm carefully pushing the sand down. I've done the outside first, and then I start working on the middle. So once you've packed it all down and it won't go down anymore, you can then get yourself more sand, place it on top, and then we can pack that sand down. And again, I'll go around the outside edges first. And then I'll move towards the centre. This is a special sand that we're using. In this case it's called Petrobond. The sand has got oil inside of it, and the oil helps to bind the sand together to stop it from falling apart. So place some more sand on, like so. At this point, what I'm looking to do is pack the sand down, but I'm also looking to make the top nice and smooth, so get it down really well. And then once we've done that, we can just use the stick to scrape the excess sand off. We want to try and save as much of this sand as possible because it is quite expensive. Okay. So that there is the first half of the mould. We now need to carefully turn it over, and you can see there that's the first half of the mould.